Hey, deserving listeners, Ed and Liz, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
He is going to die a very, very lonely old man. And he's going to spend the rest of his eternal life in purgatory hell.
Another way of putting it is there any evidence that whatever trauma reactivity he exhibits in the edit, God knows, I mean, it could all be faked, it could be edited funny, but in terms of what we're seeing, there's evidence that he has issues that have yet to be healed from. I think he's aware of it. He said he's been to a fair amount of therapy, but it would take a long time, honestly. The kinds of people that I've worked with the kinds of issues in the category of what is being presented in the edit, it takes years and years. And you also have to live life to experience those dark corners of your personality periodically. Because, like for Ed to go to therapy when he's single, it could feel like, I'm good. And then you have another intense relationship and everything starts to fall apart. So things like that. I'm just thinking of clients I've treated in this category where they'll have periods of time where there's low chaos and they will feel like everything's fine, and then they might even stop therapy, which is fine. But then they get back in a relationship and they start to get attached and things start to fall apart, and they will even come back to me saying that they don't think that they've changed at all. Maybe even they're worse than they used to be before I met them, that sort of thing, which happens, and like it just takes a long time. So is it possible that if Ed has an issue here that goes back to early childhood, which it has that look to it, that he will die before that is resolved, and relationship problems will persist until that point, and a theme of his life will be sadness and loneliness? If you want to call that purgatory, then okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And then, just for scheduling, so when would you like your movers to come?
I already have it scheduled. They're coming tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. All right, sorry I blew up at your mom, but she was coming at me.
Doesn't matter, Ed. You need to learn how to talk to women, period.
Okay, I'll commend him for apologizing and for his tone of voice. I'll commend her for not initially fighting. She's leaving, and he is trying his best. So it doesn't erase what he said. I can't imagine anything erasing what he said to the mom or to Liz. But I will say that, his apology isn't great. He is apologizing, which is good, and it seems like at least there's some care in there. A better apology would have been, I'm sorry for what I said to your mom, and then he goes apologizing to her, and he says something like, I have no right to say that. It was really stupid of me to say that. What do I know? I was hurt. That's no excuse. But he did say it in the excuse way. To provide circumstance or to provide explanation without excusing it is the key. But he's doing the excuse part of, I'm sorry for coming at your mom, but, she came at me, so what are you going to do? That's not an apology. That's telling someone why you were a dick with a caring tone of voice, which is not atypical for him. So, I want to point out that in the presentation, Liz is crying and she's suffering and she's volatile, and he is also volatile in a sense, but he also comes across as unemotional, like he doesn't care. And she's even interpreting it that way. But I am 99.9% sure that underneath that, even to him, conscious thought that he's fine and he's moved on and everything's good and he's just going to move into the future, I can say with 99.9% certainty that underneath all that is someone that's in more pain than even Liz is because of his issues and because he has no way of even acknowledging it to himself. And when that happens, there's a lot of suppression and it builds up over time. It might be hard to imagine. And I don't know about Ed, but I want you to think about this just for yourself. If you are the sort of person that avoidant attachment or something like that, you might even think of yourself as someone that does. I've had many clients who thought of this, particularly young men today, will think that they're sociopathic, and the internet, or that they lack empathy because they see that they perceive consciously that in the face of difficulty or even observing someone else's grief, they don't seem to have the same response that other people do. They don't cry in movies necessarily. In a breakup, they seem to move on pretty quickly. And it's possible. Some people do lack empathy. Some people are different in that way. Some people go through breakups where they've grieved it already, and they just have good perspective. But generally speaking, that is a delusion. That's a self-fantasy. And it can also, so there's that if you're one of those people. Also, if you see someone, particularly if you're married to someone that's like this, it can be very hurtful. It can feel like they don't really care. But the people who exhibit that they don't care in situations where you think that they would or you hope that they would are probably caring to such a degree that, and their traumas are such that they just have no ability to even acknowledge it to themselves or acknowledge it to other people, show it to other people. Liz, given her issues, it didn't interfere with that. She has her own set of issues, but she doesn't have the issue of acknowledging her feelings and feeling her feelings and seeking support and talking about it and being with those feelings, living through those feelings. And so as they go through this breakup, they are both in, I can almost guarantee you, they are both in tremendous pain and sadness and self-loathing and anger and bewilderment and worry for the future. But Ed comes across like he doesn't care at all, right? But if he didn't care at all, then why would he ever get back together with her, right? And why would he get so bent out of shape so easily under pretty minimal circumstances? The internet explanation is he's a narcissist, right? Which is a bullshit label that means nothing or is grossly misapplied by people on the internet. And I'm starting to see increasing number of students and supervisees that are also doing that because prior to getting to graduate school, they've already educated themselves on TikTok and have a completely ridiculous idea. And I have to deprogram them of, I can say to the student, everything you know about narcissism is wrong, so erase that file. It's not that easy. So, and particularly with some people who live on the internet a lot that have been absorbing the nonsense about a narcissist for 10 years now, and the neurons are wired in that thought process anyway. So it can look like Ed has zero feelings or people like the people who present. It doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. If you're Liz and, I wouldn't tell Liz, don't be so hurt because he's probably in a lot of pain too, I can almost guarantee. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that and for the two of them to break up, it's maybe for the best, particularly for Liz. I don't know. But if you're not locked in, but if you're choosing to be in a relationship with someone or you are that someone, then acknowledging that is important because if you say to yourself, if you're the avoidant one, that you don't have feelings, or if you're looking at your spouse and you're like, that person doesn't have feelings, then you can give up and you can misinterpret everything. And there's no way forward, right? Because what you want to do when you're in that situation is you want the avoidant person to start to acknowledge their feelings, take care of themselves. It can be really scary. It can be very hard. It can take a lot of years of therapy, but it's the way forward, at the very least, for the avoidant person in terms of their needs and their happiness. Because when you don't acknowledge that you have a very quick neurological response to shut things down and suppress, you still have all your needs that are occurring. And the pain and the agony and the need for the defenses gets greater. Whereas when you actually get in connection with your needs, then you can actually get your needs met. Now, how this would play out now with Ed, I don't know, but there's a pretty good, like specifically with Ed and Liz, going back to earlier in the season when they had a fight and he called off the wedding. If he were in connection with his feelings and wasn't a tendency towards avoidance, he would have had the opportunity, I think, I'm speculating based on an edited reality TV show, that he would have said to himself, okay, I have an impulse right now to call off the wedding and break up and, my normal thing, but, and maybe I'll do that. And, that still can happen. Maybe that's for the best, but what's happening for me? What need is being touched on right now, good or bad? Well, I think what's happening is I feel hurt and I feel rejected and I feel worthless or something like that. And so what do I do with that? I don't know, but let me explore that. Let me reach out to my support people, my therapist. I'm going to process this feeling. I'm not going to, avoidant people skip all that work and they just take an action, which is to avoid. They skip, what am I feeling? What do I need? And if I need something, how do I get that need met? How do I feel the feelings? How do I express that? How do I express vulnerability? They skip all of that and avoid and run. But they're the ones that are screwed over by that the most. They're screwing other people over, but they are the ones that are primarily screwed over by it, because once the relationship is over, they're still avoidant. So I say all this because avoidant people, particularly men, and there's some narrative around this, that men don't care about relationships as much as women do, or men's hearts are colder than women's, or women's are more sensitive, or they need relationship. No. Regardless of gender, and there's a bell curve, but it's not, given the data and given cultural forces, it seems pretty clear to me that there's not a lot we can say regarding gender differences or sex differences when it comes to this need. At the very least, if it is, it's a slight deviation based on bell curves, But anyway, this notion, because I've seen men and boys who present avoidant because they're socialized that way, not only in their families but in society, and people will give. I've done it. I'll say I've had clients who present this way, avoidant men, boys, and I will notice 6 months later that unconsciously I have given up on them emotionally, and that I have drank the Kool-Aid, if you will, and been convinced, seduced, if you will, into believing that they don't have feelings. Even though intellectually I would never say that, but I'm operating on that assumption. Like, they're just really level-headed, or they're just not very emotional. They're just kind of content in life or whatever, in the face of difficulty. And, their partner is the volatile one. So it's really easy. It's really hard to hold on to the notion of an invisible thing that never shows itself. But you have to believe, especially as a therapist, you have to believe, you have to have faith, because that's what you're trying to connect with. That's what you're trying to get them to connect with. That's what, now, as a spouse, what are you supposed to do? Therapy.
I'm sorry I blew up at your mom, but she was coming at me.
Doesn't matter, Ed. You need to learn how to talk to women, period. Doesn't matter who comes at you. Just know.
That's hearsay.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
Thank you for your apology. There's no excuse.
Thank you.
Own it. You should have done
it.
it. You don't talk to women that way, period.
Okay, your mom wasn't being a woman. She was being a...
Just stop.
Yeah, that's typical. If he were really apologetic, like he really felt sorrow for a violation of sorts, a transgression against the mom, then that would be that. And he could argue these points, but he would say, well, what I said was wrong, but what you're doing right now, whatever, So as typical, he will apologize and have that voice, but very quickly he will show evidence that he's not actually sorry. He's not actually feeling sorrow.
Stop.
Liz,
See, this is what we're not. Just, you owned up to it.
Okay,
Take an
fine.
apology,
Got
but
it.
don't make excuses.
Got it. Fine. I have a request from you.
You don't get no requests, Ed.
I want you to learn from this experience.
You learned from it, Ed.
I want you to
You
learn.
learned from it.
All right, let's take a little break here. The rest of this video will be for members of the YouTube channel. If you want to click the join button or the link in the description, you can become a member. When you become a member, you are truly giving me the ability to do this. We are literally a mom and pop organization, like a little corner store, if you will. And the ad revenue from various different things is, there, but it's not our bread and butter. Our bread and butter is members and patrons. If people weren't members and patrons, then I would not be here. Also, if you're not, it would be great to sign up because we're always losing members and patrons, just from, I think, regular attrition, if you will. People cancel it because they can't afford it or they don't like me anymore or something. I don't know. And I look at the numbers every month and it's self-employment. You just never know what's going to happen. And, worst case scenario, I have to close up shop and go back to be a full-time professor and therapist, which I love. But I, did that for 25 years and I feel like the next 25 I want to be yammering at y'all on camera. So if you care to, that would be great. Yeah, but only if you care to and only if you can afford to. And please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.